On this season of Destination Earth, Akane and I head back to our home country of Japan to explore the southern reaches of the island. Join us as we make our way across Nagasaki Prefecture, as we learn about its atomic past, discover its incredible countryside, and hike some of Japan's most scenic trails. Where are we off to today? Let's find out. They say there are two things you should always avoid talking about in a public setting: religion and politics. Today, we're wiping that right off the table and talking about both. You see, Oura Church is more than just a church. It's a testament to the Christians in Japan that persevered through the banishment of the religion. We'll look at a brief history as we explore the grounds of the church. You'll learn that this church is actually one of a collective of churches in the Nagasaki area that are part of a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a place that isn't dedicated to the building themselves, but yet the story they tell. The year was 1543. Japan was in a time of civil unrest, and the age of exploration was well on its way across the globe. At this time, there was no such thing as Christianity in Japan, only Buddhism and Shintoism. Skipping ahead 6 years to 1549, Francis Xavier, a Spanish-born missionary and a founder of the Society of Jesus, arrived in southwest Japan and began spreading the word of the gospel. Over the next 20 years, he and other European missionaries began extensive conversion in the port town of Hirodo, a major port west of Nagasaki. By 1570, they had over 26,000 followers, devoting their life to the beliefs of the Christian religion. During this time, churches began popping up all across the land as believers began to number more and more. Moving east, Christianity flourished, particularly here in Nagasaki. Churches were built and the area became a thriving Christian center. In fact, there were so many churches, the area was known as Little Rome. But things weren't all rainbows and puppies, however. At this time, certain high-ranking government officials began to see this rising of religion as a problem, and began implementing ways to control its quote-unquote spread. The government began by banishing Catholic priests from Japan, but the amount of priests that actually left were just a few. Things were stable until about 1596, when a Spanish ship sailing from the Philippines to Mexico ran ashore during a typhoon. Their crew members boasted about how Spain was sending missionaries to Japan to begin the colonization process, something that, understandably, didn't sit well with the Japanese officials. In response, they rounded up 26 of the highest-ranking priests and marched them into Nagasaki. Here, they were executed by crucifixion, just as Jesus was. News of their death sent ripples of shock across the known world. Immediately afterward, a ban on practicing Christianity was put into place. They demolished all the churches and turned the most famous ones into government buildings to further make their point. By 1637, about 20 years after the first ban went into place, Japanese leaders finally felt as though Christianity was all but gone across the country. But this wasn't necessarily true. Those that felt the fear of death practiced religion in secret across the island. Many moved to remote areas of Nagasaki or to the Goto Islands just offshore. Many met in small groups and formed small Christian communities where they could live their faith without worry. About 200 years later, that's right, 200 years later, things began to change as trading relationships became more and more important with nations like France and Britain. With the signing of several treaties, restrictions on practicing the Christian religion soon faded. As people learned that the government had now accepted this division of faith, people began surfacing from these small communities, some of which have been living in isolation for over 250 years. In 1865, the Oura Church was built to reclaim what was lost in the past. The church was dedicated to the 26 martyrs who lost their lives for preaching what they believed to be the truth and the way to salvation. For us, it acted as a way to connect to the religion as well as the area. Nagasaki is definitely a place full of interesting history, and even when simply visiting a church like this, a rich and unexpected backstory presents itself. If that's not what traveling's about, then I don't know what is. Come find out what we uncover next time as we continue to explore the Nagasaki Prefecture even further.